from my sides, but again, Global Silence, it stops all forms of fun for VG Gaming fans. They'll lose 3, and that's GG.
Silencer won this game so hard for them. Sure, they had an amazing run with Queen of Pain and DK, but a lot of it is attributed as well to the fact that Silencer was always there. He saved them in the early game when Mu was about to die, getting comboed by Sanking and Lina.
Yep.
He broke that combo, and in every team fight, there was no Grave. Like, a Grave cannot work here.
This is just one of those days when VG didn't want to wake up. Newbie take game number 1 up against VG Gaming. We'll have game 2 coming up in a moment to see who can keep their hopes alive in the group stage. For now, we'll look back to the analysts.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Yeah, so game 1, as they were saying, VG just not showing up enough here in game 1, not able to take that. Newbie takes the victory. And I do believe this puts Newbie in a decent spot in Group B for still a chance to fight for that top 4. VG not so much. It doesn't sound like they will have much of a shot there. But let's run through the game itself. I mean, rather than talking about all the consequences going forward. Dakota, how did you view this game? I mean, we talked a lot about the matchup before. Then Newbie getting a lot of these soft and hard counters against VG Gaming. How did that pan out?
Well, I mean, Ben made the call. I mean, you guys agreed. DK was a pretty viable hero, probably coming into this matchup, and we got to really shine. It got to really shine there. They got what they wanted. They put a lot of emphasis typically on their laning stage. They got what they needed from there. Then they came together and they said, let's move out, boys. And they got what they wanted. I mean, it must have been like 80% of those kills were track kills for them. That means that their clockwork gets to build up a lot faster. He gets to build into some serious utility core items, and he gets his like luxurious Agnum Scepter in a better time, and he put it to good use.
Yeah. And Ben, greedy Ben over here with all 3 of the punches. How did you view that game?
Things really went wrong at that Roche fight. They had a pretty good fight. We agreed that, like, okay, they killed the DK, Sinking, like, stopped his Blink Dagger, kept him there on the cliff, and then they stayed around. They had, I think, like, a hero advantage, but they had, like, no mana, no health. Roshan was right at that HP where it's like juicy enough where you want to kill it, but you know it's a bad idea. And then you're in that state, you're like, I really, really want to do this. And I think they knew it was a bad idea. They just thought they could get away with it. Mm-hmm. And maybe if they like didn't have the Clockwork Scout, because if you go for like a really, really risky play, the opponents might not think that you're that ballsy enough to do so. But they got punished super heavily for that, and then losing all sort of momentum after the Aegis.
Yeah, we have a highlight of the early stages of the game, it sounds like, so we'll jump to that right away as we talk to you, Winter. What did you think about how Newbie played out their composition?
I think there were several situations that we saw that even the casters were talking about how not being on the same page with his team. He was, I think, in the bottom tier 1 tower, he was hitting the tower by himself. I mean, they were there, but the 4 of his teammates decided that, okay guys, this might actually be a bad idea. Our enemy heroes are respawning and they're going to come back with their ultimates up. So it's probably a better idea that we just get back. But Overstate is welcome, and the team tried to help him, and it turned out to be a bad idea.
Yeah, for Vici, it did seem like a lot of times they weren't sure. I mean, even at the Roche situation, it was just like they weren't able to really make a split-second decision one way or the other.
Yeah, they were really hesitant. The 2 of them were there, like the Gyro and the Storm. They were standing outside the pit, and a rocket flare came in, a track came out, and they were. How was hitting the Roche, and the Storm was like, I think I want to get out of here, bro. And he runs out, and he goes back in probably because the Gyro's like telling him, tank for me, bro, tank for me. I think we can finish the Roche. So, and then halfway through it, they decide, okay, I think it's a better idea to try and kill heroes before we try to go Roche. So he jumps up. But enemy heroes respawn, they dive too deep, and they overcommit. So it's more like they weren't really on the same page at the heat of the moment. They were very hesitant. Like we talked about Vici before, sometimes they might be having too many of a different idea. And, you know, during the heat of battle, you want to have someone just saying, okay, guys, we're just going to go back, no more arguments, and it would have avoided a lot of the stuff that happened after that.
Yeah, it sounds simple, but in the reality,
yeah, it's difficult.
It's really
like someone would be yelling like,
yeah.
I think we can do this, then you're like, okay, you sort of get the confidence from your team.
Even if it's false confidence sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even just the heat of the moment for that particular game. It's a big game in particular for Vici. They need this win just to try to stay alive in the upper bracket. Right. So you could chalk a bit of it to nerves, but these guys are world class. You hope that they kind of are able to put those, anxious feelings aside, but it is pretty apparent when you see them splitting apart, trying to come together. It's a bit of a hot mess.
There's too much indecisiveness, I feel.
Yeah, a lot of it did seem like a scramble. We'll take another look at a situation here in that game 1, and maybe we'll be able to see that
He had it
for VG Gaming.
with the rocket flying out.
I really like the itemization from the DK. He was like so tanky that you can't initiate on him. If you go on him with like the Storm or the Sinking, especially if he's solo, you're going to lose the fight. And if he gets his BKB off, like as the Storm's zipping in or as the Epi's coming out, you lost the fight. And of course they have Silencer to back him up, a very nice hook shot, but he got so many kills with that Blink Dagger and was just able to just keep them disabled for so long. Sure, they have Grave, but they can't do anything. And we said like, oh yeah, Gyrocopter, he gets Graved, he does his thing, but BKB Dragon Knight doesn't really care. He has so much armor, he can take the flank, he has BKB for all the magic damage.
Yeah, and so let's assume that then, even if VG Gaming had played that pretty well and they were on the same page altogether, do you think the way Newbie played, they still would have been able to pull out the victory? Because it seemed like Newbie was definitely on the same page. They knew what their idea was, why they picked their certain heroes.
I think it would have been a really close match, but I would have definitely favored VG Gaming's lineup if the game goes late. They're on Dire. They have better late game with Storm and Gyrocopter compared to what Newbie had. It was the Dragon Knight plus the Queen of Pain. They don't scale as well. So I feel if both of the teams executed, it would be a really action-packed game. And when it goes down to the wire, VG's lineup would come out on top.
Okay. Then, do you think for VG, I mean, regardless of, again, the implications that go forward into the bracket stage for them, still winning a game, even if you're in the lower bracket, it matters, right? Going in knowing, like, all right, we still drew against a lot of the teams. We know we can take them if it's in, or just a best of one, or then going forward, like best of series later on. What do they change here? I mean, it sounds like the draft wasn't really the problem. Do they just say, hey, let's just calm down a little bit and move on, let's just focus on the game? Or do they say, hey, let's just try something completely new in terms of the draft?
I mean, I wouldn't mind that, and that's what I was saying before. I wouldn't mind a little bit of that innovation, that little bit of flair that they used to have, particularly with like Ice 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 and letting them really explore that off lane a bit and have some fun. Because as it stands right now, I mean, maybe just because of the implications of that match, they just felt a bit on edge, a bit miscommunicated. I hope they're able to shake that off and have a bit more fun with it, but it's hard to say. They take this game very, very seriously. All these players do. I'm sitting there eating lunch, and half of them are already eliminated, and they're getting tears in my eggs. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, so you can just see the passions there. So I don't know, after you take a hard hit like that and you kind of accept the fact that's okay, we're going to have to battle it out now through best of ones. You know, maybe they will consider changing things up here for game 2.
Yeah, what do you think, Ben? I mean, again, this is something we've discussed time and time again throughout this week. Was it the draft, or even if the draft wasn't the problem, bringing in that fresh air through the draft, does that help the team?
Yeah, it's not. I definitely don't think it's a draft. I mean, last year they had ROTK as their leader, and ROTK, as we well know, is a very animated guy. He seems pretty happy-go-lucky and just generally great at boosting his team's morale. And I was watching their picture cam as we were going to the game, and Ice 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 was the only one who's like laughing and looking pretty jolly. And in general, he's pretty much the only one who interacts a lot, I think, with a lot of the non-Chinese players and community. So I hope that they can take some of his vibe, some of his aura, and not go too hard on themselves, not like get too heated about disagreements about who was right, who was wrong in a certain call in the game, and just have faith in one another, play as a team.
All right, and as you just saw on the screen, quick update is that IG beat Na'Vi in the very first game of their series, so 1-0, only one game left. I believe that still has implications with Complexity beating Fnatic. Between IG and Fnatic, who gets to be in the top half of the bottom 4?
Yeah, it's something if IG are able to 2-0 Na'Vi here, which a lot of people weren't sure was going to happen, but they actually looked really good in
Ferrari
game 1.
went godlike.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, yeah, IG was looking a little bit rocky throughout this week, but it sounds like we do have a highlight. Before we take a look at the standings, we'll jump and check out how that game panned out for IG versus Na'Vi in game 1.
Bowling from far away, and you force the song team.
And Storm Spirit is out of control. Ferrari is mega farmed and has slayed so many of Navi's heroes. I think it was like a 15-2 start, if not worse, for Na'Vi, and they're just struggling to get any sort of kills, even with some very aggressive heroes like Bloodseeker and Queen of Pain.
I don't think they had the right supports as well to deal with the Brood. The Brood might have actually caught them by surprise. CM and Naga generally don't deal with the Brood that well. If she gets out of control, you can't really catch the Brood with the two supports like this that easily. Of course, there's a song, but it's still difficult to catch the Brood out. So
Wasn't the idea to just let Brood alone though versus Bloodseeker?
did they actually put? Oh, did they actually do that? Because I didn't catch the. early
Yeah,
part.
Havos was Bloodseeker. I don't know. I'm just assuming that's probably what they did.
Right, yeah, we
because
didn't
then he
get
was
to
mid
see.
Funnick on Centaur. But regardless, they got crushed.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of the plan, and Navi not able to pull it through. And we were half joking about this earlier in the week. We were like, we're going to see the Brood slip by at least another time. It's going to come up. It's going to catch another team a little bit off guard. And it sounds like that's what happened here. Of course, Ferrari performing.
It's just one of those heroes you just can't. You just feel so stupid after dropping a match versus a Brood that you didn't prepare for. You're just like, okay, we should have banned it. And then 10 games later, it happens again. And it will happen. Like once out of 20 games, once out of
Right.
30 games. It just depends on the frequency of how often you let it slip through.
Yeah, very true. But so again, IG still, even if you're in the lower bracket, it again matters if you get to choose your opponent or not. So they're looking to really fight for that option. As we take a look at the standing really quick, IG versus Fnatic. If IG can take this, they will move on up and knock Fnatic down to the bottom two of Group A. Fnatic then will not have a choice in their opponent when we go into the bracket stage. MVP Phoenix sitting comfortably at 6 points. They'll have their choice. And MVP Phoenix, a bit of a surprise in Group A, I feel. I mean, most people were saying, if anything, Hot Six is the team that's going to perform out of the two MVP teams. But Phoenix coming in, showing some really solid games in Group A, and now they might even have a chance to survive one or two more steps.
I wonder if they're going to choose their sister team.
That-
That's how it looks right now.
Would you? I mean, that's an interesting question because you know them really well. That's one thing, and you can see that they're not doing very well right now. But I wonder if that would create some tension.
Yeah,
with
part
their
of you is like maybe you want to see one of you succeed. Also,
That's true. Then Phoenix the argument there if Hot Six gets mad can be like, well, hey, look, at least one of us will move up at this point. So
We'll split it.
it's a win-win, right? Kind of for the organization. That's an interesting thing to look at. Maybe we might very well see that happen when we later look at the draws for next week as we prepare for the main event. But for now, both teams in our match are getting ready for game number 2. Newbie going up against Vici Gaming, and Newbie looking to get a win on the scoreboard. They've had 4 draws so far and 1 loss, and getting a 2-0 would be a nice confidence boost. Again, for a team, I mean, we heard Moose say it too, just not as much pressure this time around for a number of reasons, and a big thing being that a lot of people didn't expect Newbie to do that well. So they're just taking it step by step, looking at each game, and he said himself, he's like, all right, well, if we make top 8, then we think about top 3. If we make top 3, then maybe we'll think about, okay, now we have a shot at the championship. But until then, we're not going to jump ahead.
Then we unleash Death Ball version 2. Everyone freaks out. I mean, who really knows with Newbie? It seems like maybe they're easing by. They're like, well, we'll take the wins when we need to, and we'll see how it goes from
They're
there.
not doing
and
anything
take the next
super
step.
unusual, though.
Yeah.
I doubt they have any secret strategies at all. I mean, they might incorporate some from other teams, but as of novel ones of their own, I think they're just looking to execute better than everyone else. Because that's what they did last year. They just took what others had and made it better, their own version and their own twist.
Right. It wasn't that they necessarily brought in those strategies, but they were looking at what VG Gaming was doing and saying, all right, well, we can actually do that in a different way and do it a little bit better. And if they can do that here, and sometimes, again, that goes to the adaptation part. You don't always have to be the one that brings in the freshest of ideas. You just have to be prepared to either take it and make it your own or counter it, of course. And that's another option to be able to move forward. Winter, what do you expect from Newbie? I mean, they're looking better and better, I feel, day by day.
Yeah, I think they are definitely improving, and a lot of the games they lost before were really close. So